So give us a little bit of background on yourself as it relates to the Highland Games.
I started throwing about 8 years ago, accidentally. Started going to a gym, and I love going to the gym, but wanted to do something more than just go to the gym, something else to motivate me, and everybody was like, run a 5K, and I just find running excruciating for myself, for my knees, but just I never got the runner's high. I have run a 5K, but never again, and I won't do it again either. So it was just an accident. A friend of a friend had seen it up at the Santa Fe Renaissance Fair, and so I got a hold of Chuck Thomas, Albuquerque, and he tried to get me to come down for a couple months, and then I finally came down, and really been throwing ever since. I mean, my first season was just a few games, and I don't know, I think the important thing about that was that I always tell people I only practiced 4 times before I went to my first game. This idea that you have to be super well prepared for something before you try it, I think is sometimes inaccurate. I think sometimes you just try it and then you find out how to become more well prepared.
Okay, do you think that is more of an adult thing rather than like younger people tend to just jump into things and do them, and adults seem to overthink it?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe that's that thing of I have to be good at something before I even try it thing.
Right.
Syndrome.
Right.
I mean, I see that a lot from people who watch the game. So like, I want to try that, but I'd have to lose 50 pounds first, and I'd have to spend a bunch of time in the gym first, and I have to do this or that first. And that's why I always say, no, you don't. I just showed up. I didn't even have kilt shorts that first game.
Wow.
Didn't realize it. I mean, obviously I was wearing something, but
Right.
I didn't realize people wore shorts under their kilts. I mean, I didn't know anything. And another thrower gave me a pair of shorts. So,
Okay.
yeah, you don't have to be prepared.
So who have been your mentors?
Well, Chuck was absolutely at first in Grant, and Grace Grant as well. Absolutely have, sort of ushered me gently into the game's encouragement.
Okay. So what have been your biggest challenges as an athlete?
I've had a lot of health challenges. Knee issues, knees popping out. I had heart surgery a few years ago. You get to a certain point and a certain age maybe. And for me, I was never athletic. As a young person, I didn't find the gym or sport or anything until I was in my mid-40s. So I think there's ways of moving that my body still goes, what are you doing? And I have a hard time making sense of coaching sometimes because I don't have any background still. It's better now after 8 years. Like I get more of it now. But initially that was hard. And then just the other thing is we all have our lives, And our lives take a lot of energy, and I think a big challenge for a lot of us is that we want to throw really well, we want to do really well, but there's only so much time and energy. And when we have other things in our lives that have to take precedence, then you get out in the field and you're like, ugh, but you can't, you can't help it. You can't always be this whole idea that you're always getting better, I think is dangerous, honestly. I know that's a big thing that everybody's like, you just keep training and you always get better. I don't think it's true. I don't think you can. And so the mental game is a big issue.
Okay. What would you say your biggest successes are?
Still just showing up. And especially on days where weeks, months, seasons where I'm berating myself for the things I just talked about. For my other things in my life have to take focus, and then I am getting close to a game, and I'm like, ugh, and I want to not go, which is exactly the problem I was talking about at first.
Right.
No, so I just show up. Okay. To me, that's the biggest success.
In the last 8 years, what what changes have you seen in the games, plus or minus, that you are familiar with?
Well, a while back, because I have a tiny blog, and I did a blog about the increase in female athletes. And in women's masters, when I first started, there were less than 100 people on NASCA, and now it's, I don't know what it is this last 2 years, but this was, years ago, it had more than doubled, and I think that that's a big success, There's growing pains when you have that kind of success, which there's still places where women's masters, there aren't women's masters. There's still places where there's barely women in the sport. And I get that it's a huge challenge for ADs to have multiple classes for women, multiple classes for men too. And I think that there's growing pains with the sport, so that's both good and bad.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And so, are you a judge?
Am I a judge? Yeah.
All right. So tell me how you became involved in judging. Why you took that on?
Initially, I began judging the year I had my heart surgery, because I really I tried to throw way too soon after my surgery, and it was exhausting. And so I just started helping on the field, and then a judge was out. So technically, and I won't say what game it was at, technically I wasn't certified yet, but they needed somebody, so I stepped in and, been shadowing Grant forever, so I think they were just like, and then after that I got certified, which is fun to do, and I love judging and throwing in the same game. But I always prefer to throw the first day and judge the second day, because one of the things about judging that you don't know until you do it is that it's in some ways much more tiring than throwing. You literally don't get a break, and you're always bending down, so your hamstrings get a really wicked workout. It's really funny. But I love judging too, and I love judging when there's new people, and I love judging younger classes, just because, I don't know, it's great. It's great to be able to answer questions, and, if people are willing and open to it, or they want it, to tell them what I see.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a judge, what are the things that you, when you were you're still an athlete, but from the athletic point of view, when you viewed your own judges and you said, oh, if I were ever to become a judge, I would do this or I would do that, what are some of the things that you've thought about in that regard that you take into your role as the judge?
One of the things I do when I judge is I will ask my class, well, at the top of every event, I'll do a quick overview of what the rule is, what the lines are, whether or not it's on the line or out of the line for a foul. I'll just always go over that again. And then I'll always ask my class if they want to know what the field records are or the world records are, so that people who might want to know that, I'll let them know what that is. And sometimes people don't want to know, and that's fine, but because some games have those records. That's only for games that have the records on the score sheets and everything. But that, and I just try and just be vocal, be interactive with people. Try and let people know what's going on, how many throws are left. I just try and, because as an athlete, I get distracted and I'll be like, oh, we're done. So at the top of it's little dumb stuff like that, but I like that. When I've had judges that have done that, it's like, okay, top of the second round, okay, top of the third round, final throws, here's the number to beat. I like that as an athlete, so I try and do that as a judge.
Okay. All right, and so you are involved in the organizational side of the New Mexico Celtic Athletes. And so from your perspective and in that involvement, what are some of the things that you bring to that are unique?
The only thing I really do is I maintain the Facebook page. so that people have information that I think is important to have. We do a fair number of fundraisers for the games, and there's demos that are important to get to, because it's not just, coming out. It is for some people, and for some people it has to be that's all the energy they have, and that's great. You just come to a game. But for people who can and have the time to do more, we have other things, and so that's important for people to come out if they have the time and want to. And so I try and make sure people have that information.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do more, but Grant's the one who's had all the, I help maintain equipment and everything too, but just tiny.
You do a whole lot more than that, but anyway, I'll let you say that. Okay, so when you meet new people coming into the games, you touched on this a little bit, but I want you to think about this exclusively. When you meet people like on the sidelines at a game and they're talking about coming in to do it, what would you say? How do you address them as far as them becoming involved?
Well, like yesterday, I think there were 3 or 4 people who wanted information. And so this isn't my home game, we're in Phoenix, but I'm try and make sure at a game I know if there's the local group, or I try and know who runs a local practice, and I'll either direct someone to that person or say, look up Rio Salado Celtic Athletes online, and they have the information. So I try and direct people to the people they need to meet, wherever I travel. Other than that, I'll bring weights over to people all the time. I don't know if it's legal or it's frowned upon or not, but I'll bring a weight. If we're working weight for distance or stone, I'll bring it over to the people watching and put it over the fence and say, pick it up. You can pick this up. I try and do that.
Good.
Too. I don't know if ADs would be happy with that. But.
Well, they'll know now.
Yeah, I know. Get me banned from games. Thanks.
They'll know to keep the implements away from you. All right, so if you were in a group of athletes, an informal group, sitting around after the games, having a good time, what would you say, what advice would you give a group of current athletes to be more successful, to have more fun, to be more participatory in the entire process? What would you say?
Well, I think I'd go back to that thing about, really understanding and asking what the people who are running the games, if there's other things that you can do, and sometimes we can't, and that's okay too, but if they're, if a group has a demo at a bar, for St. Patrick's Day, can you help with that? Or can you just show up? It doesn't mean you have to go and set up or maintain equipment, but are there things that you can do to just show up to help promote the games? That stuff's really important. That there's more of that. But again, it always comes down to how much time someone has. But asking, the one thing that I think people don't necessarily think about, because I didn't. My first couple years, I didn't think about the weights or the cabers. I didn't know someone. I didn't know someone had to maintain that stuff. It just showed up. I just threw it, whatever. But especially with cabers take a lot of work, And to ask an AD or whoever maintains the equipment, because I know that varies for everybody, if they could use your hand oiling cabers, or it's a big deal.
Okay.
I think you don't. Some people are afraid, or I should say afraid. Some people are less willing to be out in front of people and have to talk to people, and that's fine. Some people are better, working privately with their hands. So, is there something you can help an AD with, or the equipment person with? Can you paint the weights for them? Can you, stuff like that.
Okay,
How else can you help?
Good. All right, so what's next for Mona?
A nap. I have to have breakfast. I'm really hungry. In terms of the next game, I'm not throwing again probably until May. I might do. There's a charity event up in Colorado Springs, but I haven't seen solid info yet about that. So I might do that if that's happening still, and then May. I'm throwing with Women's Open group in May, so that's been a little daunting. I've been working with the 28-pound weight. It's amazing how 7 pounds changes timing.
All right, final words.
I don't know. It's a pretty day. I don't know. Hydrate well. Always on the field. That's the other thing I always do as a judge. I'm a mother hen, so if you get me as a judge, I apologize, but I will get on your butt about sunscreen and hydration and making sure you eat.
Good.
I can't help it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Linda.